Hi, everybody. So I'm here today with my new friend, Justin Weiss, who is a Wim Hof Method instructor. And he has been for 3 years. And I'm so excited about this because I think this method is so important. I've been experiencing it firsthand myself and can tell how important the impact that it has on my body and on my emotions is. So, Justin, welcome.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Good to be here.
Yeah, and so can you explain to us in a kind of condensed version of what exactly the Wim Hof method is?
Yeah, let me explain first about Wim Hof. Wim Hof is actually a name. He's a Dutch man who discovered this method years ago. He was a lifelong spiritual seeker and was testing out every different modality just to like reach higher consciousness, to reach spiritual fulfillment. And it was actually after his wife committed suicide that he found that
Oh,
he was
yeah.
having trouble grieving. Despite practicing all of these, was really having a hard time with it, as anyone would. Um, but the grief process was particularly taxing. And I believe the story goes he was walking by a cold lake and saw like this frozen over lake, and just intuitively was like, "Oh, that's it." And he got in, found himself like breathing, and then but felt like alive, and he felt like completely present and here and in the now. And it helped him move through the feelings, right? He brought him into this embodiment, and over time he kept refining
Mm.
and refining. uh, what he found out was that there was this breathing technique to prepare the body for the cold, which was what he was discovering while in the cold. um, Over time he refined it and kind of made it into a whole technique, which is based off of the Tibetan technique called tumo breathing, which involves hyperventilations and breath retentions without any dogma, just breathing and cold exposure. And this has been shown to remediate a whole myriad of issues and of symptoms and of even diseases. Myself included, I've found great relief from one of my issues, which we'll go into at some point. And people all over the world are using this for like just general wellness, for preventative measures, for remedial measures, um, even to like test their body out and see how long they could hold their breath and
Yeah.
withstand the cold. It's for anybody, which is why it's so cool.
And what I didn't realize that his initial impetus to create this method or that he was looking for emotional relief. I didn't realize that. And that's perfect because that's a big part of what we're offering, people tools to be able to do. And of
Yeah,
course the physical benefits as well. So that's amazing. Thank you.
yeah.
And now you came to the Wim Hof method in a time of need, from what I understand. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience with that?
Yeah, I can't even say I was in need. I had given up at this point, right? It was
Okay.
years of need, and then I was just like, this isn't going to happen. My story is that at about age 18, I just started having these weird chronic pain issues, right? So like my necks, my neck, my shoulders, my lower back, like these parts of my body just started hurting like all of the time. No, no, no explanation, right? And I never had pain like that in my life. I've always had trouble sleeping and fatigue issues, which kind of went unnoticed, but this stuff came out of nowhere. So I was always hurting. I started going to chiropractors, and uh, they recommended trying different diets. And then I started falling into like the charlatan trap of like every different person with their own modality named after their name who claims it's the one. Think for
Yeah.
fibromyalgia, you're an energy healer. I'm sure you've been surrounded by people of this sort. So I gave my money to a lot of people that I trusted who unfortunately weren't able to provide anything. Um, the best thing that I was able to find was like some severe dietary changes, which sort of took the edge off. So I
Mm.
was just living with pain every day, all day, nothing I could do about it. Uh, and this was in summer of 2015. My friend Autumn sent me a Weiss video on Wim Hof, and she was just like, this is cool. It was the day it came out. This guy seems cool. And it was like a 20, 30-minute video. I didn't know if I wanted to watch a 20, 30-minute video, but I just like did while laying in bed on my phone, and it told the story of Wim Hof and of these people that trained with him. And I believe there was a mention of chronic pain or something. It might have been fibro itself. At this point, I had been told by a chiropractor that it was likely fibromyalgia, went to a doctor. He said it was probably fibromyalgia. So that was kind of the word in my head. It does seem like an umbrella term when everyone's given up on why you're hurting, as you probably know. No official diagnosis, but it made sense, right? Like I checked all the boxes. Well, this guy in this documentary said he could help. So I shelled out all the money I had basically before my semester of school started and this payment plan, and did his 10-week course. And within like the third or fourth day of practicing meaning doing the breathwork technique and then cold showers every day, I was like not hurting for the first time in years, right? Nothing. It was really good.
How long did it take before you started to notice a difference in your pain levels?
It was about 3 or 4 days. There was
Wow.
the first few days with the energy levels I noticed. It was the exhilaration definitely took over. And I think it was like retroactively, like I was retrospectively, excuse me, I was realizing that I wasn't having the same shoulder issues. There's still some stuff, right? Like if I do this, if I like keep my hands above my head for like more than a minute, I get the most burning sensation. Doesn't matter if I took an ice bath a minute before, that's never gone away. But just like being able to walk around without like some focus and awareness of like this weird pain, it's gone. As long as I practice, caveat, right? If I don't practice, meaning if I don't do breath work, don't do cold showers, don't do ice baths, it comes back.
Interesting.
And the summers are challenging for that reason.
Yep. Okay. So you mentioned ice baths, and I want to let people know that we're going to be talking more about the cold therapy aspect of it in a video that we're going to be doing in the subscription program that you can sign up for. But in your experience, because that the breathing, most people are like, okay, well, you know, I can give that a shot. But the cold therapy, and again, we'll be talking about it more. But so, and I also know, and I wanted to ask you about this. Just I don't want to take too long on this, but I also know that his recommendation is not to start the cold therapy until your body is kind of in a more normalized state. So in other words, for people who are experiencing more intense COVID or post-COVID or chronic fatigue syndrome, myalgic encephalomyelitis, or even fibromyalgia symptoms, my assumption is that they want to lay off of the cold therapy for a little bit. Is that correct, or can you speak to that?
In regards to someone with an illness, specifically COVID, laying off would likely be a good idea. That is the general recommendation, is when you're sick, don't get cold, just do the breathing. That being said, I have talked to plenty of people who do the cold and get great benefit while sick. I don't do it. I don't want to risk it or push my body. With someone who has chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, etc., I would encourage them to start with ending their showers on cold. It's summer. It's not for everybody. Can't do that. I can't do that here. It's hardly cold. But if you can, end your showers on like 5 to 10 seconds of cold. Do that every day for a week and gradually increase. I host an event called Ice Church once a week, where I have people take ice baths and breath work. And Lorrie, usually nobody has done any cold exposure prior. And I have probably had over 100 people at this point come, and not a single issue. So some people can jump in, and a lot of people do come for their issues. But if you're sick, don't do the cold, just do the breathing.
Okay. Okay, cool. Yeah. So again, we'll talk more about that, because that's a side of it that I haven't been able to get into fully yet. I've been doing the cold showers, but you know, I'm in South Carolina and it's 107 degrees here, you know, so
Yeah.
cold is not really, but if you take the hot first and then the cold, you do still get a little bit of the benefit from what I
A
understand.
little bit. Yes, there's something.
So yeah, so might as well start somewhere. So with the breathing technique, and he's going to lead us through this in the next two videos. We're going to give you two different versions. He's going to give you two different versions, and he's going to take you through it. But I wanted to ask you specifically, because I know that when we are feeling very fatigued, that this method is intense, right? So it feels like it takes a lot of energy. So I know for myself, for instance, today I'm having a low energy day, and I started to go through the first round and I was like, I don't know if I can do this today. And I did get myself to go through the second round, but and especially for people who are super fatigued, there's that question. And then also, for instance, I've developed a cough and some chest congestion. And so for people who are having that issue, what are your thoughts on that, and what can you recommend on that?
Yeah, there's a couple ways to approach it. There's a big versatility aspect to this whole method.
Mm-hmm.
The ideal way to practice, in my experience and belief system, is the intense practice, which is through the mouth, breathing in, letting it go. So that's the standard breath that you're doing, no matter how you're doing it, is fully in, letting it go. It takes, like you said, it takes work. It's active.
Yeah.
You can't passively do it. Like, I wake up in the morning fine, and sometimes I'm like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
20 minutes, like tensing up my muscles. I may as well go and work out or something. But really doing that intense breath is what causes a lot of the physiological benefit, is really deeply breathing. That being said, you can do it through your nose. I did it through my nose actually for years before I went to the mouth after a recommendation from another instructor. I personally found my benefits were better through my mouth, but it is just fine through the nose. So through the nose, if you're not too congested, it is a little more passive. You're breathing into your lower belly, your diaphragm, right below your lungs. You're breathing that in. It'll automatically happen if you're using your nose. You can't escape the diaphragm, which is kind of cool, through the nose. Belly through the chest, and letting it go. So the big issue here is that it has to be an active breath. It's not a normal breath, or else you're not doing anything to change your physiology besides breathing, which is awesome. Don't stop breathing. But deep breaths through the nose are a little more challenging. Now, I have a double deviated septum, so it's like really hard for me. I have to make an obnoxious noise. That's my number one recommendation for someone who is struggling to do the deep breathing due to whatever issue. Otherwise, even just like a hole through the mouth, if your mouth is like wide open, you're letting in a lot of air, that's going to get your throat all weird and going to get you mucusy and make you want to cough. So one of those, really, number one thing, Lorrie, is being flexible. Like through the 15-20 minutes that you'd be practicing, you're going to have all sorts of changes. Like you can switch mouth and nose every like 10 breaths. You might need to. So just being flexible and just keep going is the number one thing. Don't stop. Unless you have to cough, don't stop and keep going. There might be some people in a certain state where they just can't do that right now. That's fine. Wait an hour, and there might be enough change to do it.
What about taking it slower to begin with? Another thing that I recognize is that some of the side effects, or whatever you want to call it, of doing the very intense breathing can be a little scary for people to begin with, because you might experience tingling, which some people with the this post-COVID stuff are experiencing already,
Mm-hmm.
all these weird sensations. I know sometimes I'll experience like crickets in my ear. When I first started, I don't get these anymore, and I don't know exactly why. I think it's probably because my body's accustomed to it now, but it could also be because I'm not able to take as full a breath, so I'm not oxygenating my body as much since I do have the chest stuff right now. But anyway, so I'm wondering if you think it might be a good idea for some people, if they do find that it makes them feel more panicky,
Mm-hmm.
or if they are having these breathing problems or fatigue problems, if it might be helpful for some people to start off breathing more slowly just to begin with. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I actually introduced this at the beginning of every ice church when we're about to do the breath work. So the two big options are mouth and nose, and
Okay.
generally it is taught mouth. And I will go ahead and say, as my understanding of this is deepened, I do think the mouth, the more intense, is ideal. I think anything that gets you feeling that agitation, like this, the fight or flight, is a really good sign and will likely yield faster, quicker benefits. But like you said, a lot of crazy shit happens. I mean, when I first
Yeah.
started breathing, this would happen to me. It's called
Oh
tetanus.
yeah, totally. Yeah, yeah,
It wasn't like, oh, this is funny. It hurts so bad and be like frustrating
yeah.
for hours even afterwards. Like, oh, why did I do
Oh
that?
wow.
There's a lot of
Yeah.
things that happen, and that is going to be from the full, from that. That won't happen if you use your nose. So
Interesting.
the caveat
Okay.
about talking about doing it slower is that there are people who do it so slow that they're not going to get any
Any
distinguished
benefit.
benefit. Yeah, and I've had people at a couple workshops, and this is on me for not like making sure everyone was really doing it because I thought maybe it would work. But people who don't notice anything, they're like, what's so special about the breathing while everyone else is tripping space? They're like, I
Huh.
don't get it because they're slowly breathing. Um,
Right. Gotcha.
yeah, so
Okay.
I,
That's
pace and ideal speed. That's all I can think of, but too slow is a trap to not get the benefits. That being said, any type of conscious breathing is amazing. Like,
yeah.
benefit. Yeah,
Perfect.
yeah.
But I'm very glad that we talked about that, because that's important. We want for people to be able to experience the benefits for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's that's
Totally.
wonderful. So yeah, so we're gonna jump into it in this next video. So we'll see you guys there. Thank you so much, Justin.
Uh,
Thank you. Oh, I gotta figure out how to turn the recording off.
I don't know. Is there a
Here it
button?
is. Here it
No.
is. Add to.